Hi guys, welcome back to Chess the Matthew. So on this video, we will tackle about the Trompowsky attack from the black's perspective. So the set opening start with the moves of e4 and after knight f6, developing a piece and also controlling the center while vacating the square so that the black king may castle on the king side. After this, bishop will be cleared on the way for castling for the black. So after knight f6, the white here may play the move bishop to g5 and we shall enter now the Trompowsky attack chess opening. So the idea of bishop to g5 is to try to double the f file on this position for the cost of bishop pair. But after bishop to g5, it actually violates the opening principle that in developing a piece, the knight should be first to develop before the bishop. So with this opening principle violation, this bishop to g5 also vacates the defense on the white's queen side. So the best thing to do here for black is to attack this weakened pawn on b2 after this bishop actually been developed from the c1 square. So here the black should play the move c5. The idea of c5 here is opening some diagonal for the queen that can actually later on pressurize the queen side of the white. Because of the fact that this bishop actually been moved from the defense, so this queen may try to play queen b6 and try to attack this independent pawn on b2. And also with this c5 push, it actually controls the center and tries to have early tension with the pawns on the c file and d file. So here if the white here will play the move d5 to neglect some captures, and again after d5 it extends the control to the center and again with space advantage against the black's camp. But this d5 push doesn't really hurt the position of the black because the black here will simply play the move queen to b6 with his idea after playing c5. So after queen to b6, there is an immediate attack to the b2. So for example, if the white here will simply play the move knight to c3, trying to develop a piece and neglecting some defense to this pawn, but the black here will simply capture that pawn and win some material advantage with extra pawn. But for example, after queen to b6, if the white here play the move b3, saving his pawn, but there is a simple move of knight to e4, exploiting the fact that this b3 move actually hurt his position by weakening his dark squares on this position. So after knight to e4 attacking this independent bishop, there is a threat of playing the move queen to f6 and again trying to win the undefended rook on a1. So after h4 for the white on this position, saving his bishop from the attack of this knight and again trying to defend this f6 square with his bishop. But there is a simple move of queen to h6, again attacking the bishop, and after knight to f3, defending with his knight on this position. But again, there is a simple move for the black, which is g5. This g5 pawn was actually defended twice, and again, any capture this pawn will lead to a compromise of material loss. So after bishop to g3, here comes now the bishop g7, and again, the black here has an edge by winning some material on the board. So going back, for example, after on this position, after saving his pawn from the attack of queen to b6, but after b3, there is a simple move of knight to e4 attacking the bishop, and after bishop h4, again, we have a simple move of queen to h6, and knight f3, there is g5. So for example, going back on this position, if the white here plays the move bishop to g3, but as like I said, this f6 now has no defense for the white. So there is simple queen to f6 attacking the queen, and after c3, knight takes, queen c2 trying to attack the knight, but after knight takes d5, queen c5 trying to have a mate in one. For example, if the black here will greedily capture now the rook on a1, but after the queen takes c5, there is simple knight a6 attacking the queen, and still there is an attack from the rook of white, and after queen takes to d5, there is queen takes a1, and it is pretty obvious that the black here has a huge material advantage. So after queen b6, knight c3, and queen takes to b2, we shall see in this position now that this queen attacks now the knight on c3, which is actually undefended. So after bishop to d2, defending his knight, but there is a simple retreat of queen because the queen now has a mission accomplished by winning a pawn on the b2. So after, for example, queen takes to b2, let's say, for example, if the white here plays the move knight to a4 attacking the queen, but there is simple queen b4 check, and again with an attack to the knight on a4. So the white here will defend c3 to both defend the check and an attack to the knight on a4. So after queen to e5, trying to pin down this pawn, and after bishop takes f6, trying to accomplish his mission by doubling the f file, but after e takes f6, e4, b5 attacking the knight, knight b2, and again there is simple queen takes to c3 and emerge an extra material on the board. So after queen takes to b2, the white here should play bishop to d2 defending his knight, and after queen b6, e4 trying to open some lines for his bishop, and again controlling the center, dominating some space advantage on the board, for example. But after e4, there is simple move of d6, trying to stop the white here to have some pawn on the e5 to restrict the white here to have a successful space advantage on the board. For example, after queen to b6, if the white here tries rook to b1 instead of e4, but after rook to b1, there is simple queen c7, trying to put the black's queen on a safe square, and after knight b5, again queen to d8, e4, trying to have some more space on the center and on the board, for example, but there is simple d6, trying to stop any further push of this pawn, because after e4, the black here should not play a capture on the e4 because there is queen to e2, and after that retreat of knight, there is knight takes to d6, and it is already now a checkmate because this pawn cannot capture the knight because it was actually pinned down to the queen on e2. So after e4, the black here should play the move d6, and after bishop to d3, a6 kicking out the knight, and after knight c3, b5, knight f3, g6, king's head castling, and bishop g7. Again, the black here has a slight advantage with an extra pawn on the board, but we cannot actually deny for the black's perspective that the black here is actually on a passive position because of his undeveloped pieces on the board. So after queen to b6, e4, and d6. So after d6, stopping any further push of his pawn on e4, there is simple f4 trying to control the center, but there is simple e5, and after f takes e5, d takes e5, knight f3 attacking the undefended pawn, knight b to d7, bishop to c4, bishop to e7, king's head castling, and king's head castling, and after queen to e2, again the black here has a slight advantage with an extra pawn on the board. Although the white here has no problem because in the opening, after queen to e2, the white here already connects his rooks and he was actually finish on the opening stage. And again, for the black, in development, the black here has a problem. For example, on this position, because he has still a bishop on c8 and he cannot connect now his rooks on the board. So just a recap, for example, after d4, knight f6, bishop to g5, the main reply here against this Trompowsky attack is very simple, by playing c5, and after d5, queen b6, trying to win the pawn on b2, and after knight c3, queen takes to b2, bishop to d2, defending his knight, queen b6, e4, strengthening his center, and after d6, stopping any further push of e4, f4, boosting his center, e5, f takes e5, knight takes e5, knight f3, attacking the undefended pawn, knight bd7, bishop to c4, bishop to e7, kingside castling, and queen to e2. Again, on this position, the black here has a slight advantage with extra pawn on the board, and the black here should cope up with development, for example, via connecting his rooks on the board. So that's all. I hope you enjoyed this video, and please don't forget to subscribe.